phone started ringing while I was staring at my computer screen, trying to finish a report I should have completed hours ago. It was already past 11:30 p.m. The office floor around me was completely empty. Most of the overhead lights were off, leaving only a few dim desk lamps and the glow from my monitor. I hated staying late, but deadlines didn't care about fear or exhaustion. The ringing made me jump. I glanced at the desk phone beside me. It was an internal call. The small display showed an extension number from the third floor. I frowned. The third floor was empty at night. Everyone knew that. Still, I picked up the receiver. "Hello," I said. Silence. I waited a few seconds, then hung up, assuming someone had misdialed before leaving. I shrugged it off and went back to typing. Less than a minute later, the phone rang again. Same extension. This time I didn't answer right away. I just stared at it, listening to the sound echo across the empty office. Finally, I picked up. "Hello?" Again, nothing, not even breathing. I hung up, feeling slightly irritated now. Maybe the phone system was glitching. This building was old. Things broke all the time. 10 minutes passed. I almost forgot about it. Then the phone rang again. Different extension this time, fourth floor. My fingers paused on the keyboard. That floor was definitely empty. The company had shut it down months ago for renovations. No desks, no phones in use. At least that's what I'd been told. I picked up again, my voice quieter now. "Hello?" Nothing. I hung up slowly and leaned back in my chair. The office felt different now. Quieter, heavier, like the silence was pressing against my ears. I told myself to relax. Phone systems reroute calls sometimes. Maybe it was automated. Maybe it was maintenance testing lines late at night. Still, I checked the hallway, empty. I walked to the elevator lobby and pressed the call button just to confirm no one else was around. The doors opened immediately. No sound, no movement. I went back to my desk. At 12:05 a.m. the phone rang again. This time the extension was from my floor. My stomach tightened. I stared at the number, then picked up. "Hello?" I whispered. Silence. But this time it didn't feel empty. It felt intentional. Like whoever was on the other end was listening. I hung up and stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. I checked the nearby cubicles, the break room, the bathrooms. Nothing. No footsteps. No voices. Just the When I returned to my desk, the phone rang immediately. Same floor, different extension. My heart started pounding. I answered, already knowing what I'd hear. Nothing. I slammed the receiver down harder than I meant to. I tried calling building security, but the line went straight to voicemail. No surprise, they were probably doing rounds in another building. I considered packing up and leaving, deadline be damned. But something stopped me. A stupid sense of logic. Fear didn't make sense. There was a rational explanation. There always was. The phone rang again, same extension. It rang until it stopped. Then it rang again, and again. Each time the number changed, slowly, methodically, extensions moving closer to my desk. I felt my throat tighten. I checked the caller ID history. Every call was internal. No outside lines. No blocked numbers, just the building. At 12:30 a.m. I made a decision. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and went to the floor above mine. The third floor was exactly as expected. Empty desks. Chairs pushed in. No lights on. The phone sat silent on every desk, unplugged or covered. No one was there. As I stepped back into the stairwell, my phone buzzed in my pocket. The desk phone was ringing again. I hurried back down, my footsteps echoing too loudly in the stairwell. When I reached my desk, the phone stopped. The extension on the display was mine. I stared at it for a long moment before slowly picking it up. "Hello?" I said, barely louder than a breath. Still no voice. But this time I heard something else. A faint sound, like fabric shifting. Like someone adjusting their grip on a receiver. I froze, the line went dead. I set the phone down carefully, my hands shaking now. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't get enough air. I told myself it had to be electrical interference. Crossed lines, old wiring, anything. The phone rang again. Same extension. I didn't answer. Instead, I unplugged the phone from the wall. The ringing stopped. I exhaled shakily, relief washing over me. Then my computer screen went dark. Before I could react, the desk phone, unplugged, rang. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over my chair. The sound was louder now, sharper, insistent. I stared at the phone, my mind screaming that this wasn't possible. It rang 3 times. Then stopped. A few seconds passed. The phone rang again. Caller ID, conference room. That room was 20 feet behind me. I didn't turn around. My skin prickled like I was being watched. I could feel it. The space behind me felt wrong, too close. The phone rang one last time. This time there was no extension number. Just one word. Inside, I grabbed my bag and ran. I didn't bother shutting down my computer. I didn't turn off the lights. I sprinted down the hallway, my footsteps loud and uneven, heart pounding in my ears. I didn't look back until I was outside, gulping cold air like I'd been underwater. Nothing followed me out. The building stood quiet and normal behind me, lights glowing softly through the windows. I didn't go back to finish the report. I didn't go back the next day either. I quit that job a week later, making up an excuse about personal reasons. Even now, years later, I refuse to stay late in offices. I don't answer internal calls after hours. And whenever a phone rings in an empty building, my stomach tightens. Because sometimes, I noticed the missed call when I woke up suddenly in the middle of the night. The room was dark, quiet, and completely still. For a moment, I didn't know what had woken me. Then I felt the vibration stop. My phone lay face down on the bedside table, its screen fading back to black. I picked it up. One missed call, no number, just the word unknown. I checked the time. 3:17 a.m. That alone wouldn't have bothered me. Spam calls happened all the time. What felt wrong was the timing. I always put my phone on silent before sleeping. It never rang, never vibrated loudly enough to wake me. Yet the missed call had come in at 3:03 a.m. I stared at that number for a few seconds longer than necessary. Something about it stuck in my head, like a loose thread I couldn't pull out. I told myself I was overthinking it. I put the phone back down and turned onto my side, trying to sleep. But my body didn't relax. The room felt different now. Too quiet. I could hear my own breathing, the faint hum of the refrigerator from the kitchen, the distant sound of a car passing outside. Then my phone vibrated again. I grabbed it instantly. Another missed call, unknown. I checked the time. 3:17 a.m. A small knot formed in my stomach. Coincidences happened, I knew that. Still, I didn't like patterns I couldn't explain. I deleted both call logs and placed the phone screen down again, like that would somehow stop it. At 3:31 a.m. it vibrated once more. Missed call. Unknown. I sat up in bed now, fully awake. My heart was pounding, not from fear exactly, but from confusion. I stared at the phone, waiting for it to ring again. It didn't. Minutes passed. I checked the time again at 3:44 a.m. I remember thinking, if it happens again, I'll answer. At 3:45 a.m. the phone rang, not vibrated, rang. The sound was sharp and loud in the silence, like it was right next to my ear. I hesitated, then answered. "Hello," I said. At first there was only static, a faint, uneven hiss. The kind you hear when a call connects but no one speaks. I waited. Then I heard breathing, slow, shallow, unsteady. I sat up straighter, my grip tightening on the phone. "Hello, who is this?" The breathing continued for a few seconds longer, then stopped suddenly. The call ended. I stared at the screen, my chest tight. I checked the call details again. Unknown, no number, no voicemail, no option to call back. I tried anyway. The call failed instantly. I told myself it had to be a prank or some kind of automated system glitch. Still, the breathing replayed in my head. It hadn't sounded distorted. It hadn't sounded far away. It sounded close. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, I contacted my phone provider. I explained everything. The missed calls, the timing, the unknown number. They checked their system and told me something that made my skin crawl. According to them, my phone hadn't received. They suggested restarting my phone, maybe updating the software. I thanked them and hung up, feeling worse than before. That night, I decided to take control of the situation. I put my phone on airplane mode before bed. No signal. No Wi-Fi, nothing. I placed it on the table and lay down, staring at the ceiling, waiting for sleep. At 3 a.m. the phone rang. I shot upright in bed, staring at the screen in disbelief. Incoming call. Unknown. Airplane mode was still on. My hands shook as I answered. Hello. There was no breathing this time. Instead, I heard a quiet clicking sound. Click. Pause. Click. Like a fingernail tapping slowly against plastic. Each click felt deliberate, controlled. Like whoever was on the other end knew I was listening. I ended the call and threw the phone onto the bed like it had burned me. I turned on every light in the apartment, checked the locks, checked the windows, looked behind doors, inside the bathroom, the closet. I was alone. That day I told a friend about everything. He laughed, said I was scaring myself, suggested I change my number, so I did. New SIM card, new number, new start. That night I slept with the lights off again for the first time in days. At 3 a.m. my phone rang. Unknown, I answered without thinking. The breathing returned, but now there was something else beneath it. A faint rustling sound. Like fabric moving, like someone shifting their weight. Then I heard a voice. Quiet, strained, it said my name. I froze. The voice sounded exactly like me. Same tone, same rhythm, same slight hesitation before speaking. It spoke again. Why didn't you answer? My chest tightened. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't speak. I dropped the phone onto the floor. The call ended. I moved out, changed numbers again. I stopped answering unknown calls completely. The calls stopped. Mostly. Sometimes I still wake up suddenly in the night, convinced I heard my phone vibrate. And every now and then when I check my call history in the morning, there's a missed call logged at 3 a.m. No number, no record, just the reminder that some calls don't need a signal to reach you. The voicemail came in at 2:41 in the morning. I didn't hear my phone ring. I didn't wake up. I only noticed it the next morning when I reached for my phone on the nightstand and saw the notification. One new voicemail. No missed call. That alone was unusual. Most voicemails appeared with at least a missed call, but not this one. Just a single notification sitting there on my screen taunting me. I didn't listen to it immediately. I figured it was spam. A wrong number, something I could ignore. I was wrong. I lived alone in a small apartment above an old bakery that had been closed for years. The building was quiet at night but not silent. Pipes knocked. Floorboards creaked. The refrigerator hummed. Even the faint buzzing of the streetlight outside could reach through my thin walls. Every sound was familiar. Every sound had a place. That night, nothing was unusual except the voicemail. I went to work trying to convince myself it was nothing, but the thought lingered in the back of my mind. During lunch, curiosity finally got the better of me. I sat in my car, headphones. At first there was nothing, silence. No static, not even a hint of a voice. I almost deleted it, thinking it was an empty recording, a mistake. Then I noticed it. A faint sound beneath the silence. Breathing, slow, controlled. Careful, like someone was trying not to wake a sleeper. I felt my stomach tighten. Then I realized something worse. Under the breathing, I could hear my apartment, very clearly. The faint hum of my refrigerator. The ticking of the old wall clock. Even the distant hum of traffic outside my window. The voicemail had recorded my space, my apartment at night. It was impossible, unless someone had been there. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed awake in the living room, the lights on, listening for anything. Every creak of the floor, every bump in the pipes made my heart jump. When I finally dozed off, I dreamed of someone standing silently in my doorway, watching me. The next morning there was another voicemail. Same time. I didn't answer immediately. When I finally did, the voicemail was even more disturbing. The breathing again, slow and measured. Then a soft scrape. A chair moving across the floor. my chair, my apartment. Someone had been inside. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I went to my sister's place. I showed her the voicemails. She suggested calling the police, but there was no evidence. No forced entry, no fingerprints. The voicemail was the only proof. She tried to calm me, but I could see she was just as unnerved as I was. I felt exposed, vulnerable, alone but not alone. I blocked the number and stayed at her place that night. I slept on the couch, the TV on, lights too bright. My phone was on the pillow next to me. At 2, then a voice, calm, deliberate. "I know you're not home tonight." My chest tightened. "I don't like leaving messages," the voice said. The voicemail ended. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't breathe properly. I felt watched. Over the next few days, the voicemails continued. Always at 2:41. Sometimes just silence. Sometimes breathing. Sometimes the faintest sounds of my apartment. A faucet turning on, a door creaking, the front door clicking shut. The police were no help. They told me it could be a prank, but that didn't explain the apartment sounds. It didn't explain the timing. It didn't explain the voice. I started recording audio every night while I slept. I wanted proof. I wanted something tangible. One morning I listened to the recording. At exactly 2:41 a.m. my phone vibrated. Then the voicemail notification tone coming from somewhere else in my apartment. Not my phone, somewhere else. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't sleep for days. I didn't stay in that apartment for long after. I moved. New apartment, new phone, new number. I deleted almost everything. I kept one voicemail. I don't know why. Maybe to remind myself it was real. Maybe because I couldn't bring myself to erase it completely. Months passed. Life felt normal again. Then one night my phone buzzed. New voicemail. Unknown number. Time stamped 2:41 a.m. I didn't listen. I don't plan to. Some messages don't need to be heard to understand what they mean. Some warnings aren't meant to be acted on. Some things are simply meant to be remembered. Even now, I sometimes wake up at night, heart racing. I check my phone reflexively, half expecting a voicemail that isn't there. I know better now. I know to ignore it. I know to move on. But the memory, the sound of my apartment captured in someone else's voicemail, the voice that said my name, that voice I'll never forget, stays with me. Always. Because some calls are never meant to be returned. It started with a single wrong number. I didn't think much of it at first. I was scrolling through my phone one morning when I noticed a missed call from a number I didn't recognize. Standard stuff. Wrong numbers happen all the time. But something about this one didn't sit right with me. I called it back just to clear the notification. A man's voice answered. He sounded panicked. "You called me," he said. I blinked. "No, I think you have the wrong number." There was a pause. Then more quietly he said, "Why do you have my apartment number?" I froze. My apartment number. I had never given anyone this number except my close friends. How could he even know it? I don't know what you're talking about," I said, suddenly nervous. "You do," he said. His voice was low now, steady. "And you'll understand soon." The line went dead. I told myself it was a prank, some stranger messing with me. But the unease didn't leave me. Every sound in my apartment suddenly felt too loud. Every shadow seemed sharper. That night, I double-locked the doors, checked all the windows, and left a chair under the handle. I set my phone on the counter. I froze. The display wasn't saved. No contact, just unknown. My hand shook as I answered. "Hello?" Silence. Then slowly a voice came through. Calm, familiar, too familiar. "My door is open," it said. I nearly dropped the phone. My apartment door was locked. All windows were closed. I checked them instinctively, panic rising. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice trembling. There was a pause. Then, almost like a whisper, the voice said, "You don't know me. But I know you." The line went dead. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't dare leave the lights off. Every sound, every small creak in the building felt amplified. The old refrigerator hummed like a warning. Pipes knocked like footsteps. The next day I tried to... The police shrugged it off as a prank, but they didn't hear what I did. They didn't know the voice sounded exactly like me. slightly higher pitched but unmistakably my tone, my rhythm. The calls continued, always at the same time, 3:17 a.m. Sometimes it was breathing, slow, patient, calculated. Sometimes it was silence just long enough to make me wonder if I'd imagined it. Sometimes there were sounds from my apartment. The faucet turning on, the fridge door opening, the soft shuffle of something moving across the floor. I started recording every night. Audio, video, lights on. Nothing escaped my preparation, but it didn't stop. One voicemail changed everything. It started with silence as usual. Then the faint sound of my own voice, speaking, but I hadn't said anything. It wasn't a recording I made. It was distorted, warped, but unmistakably me. Saying, "Why aren't you answering?" I froze, my hands trembled, the hair on the back of my neck stood on end. How could someone have recorded me sleeping? How could someone know what I sounded like, what I said, when I wasn't speaking? I didn't sleep that night. I stayed at a friend's apartment, trying to convince myself I was overreacting. At 3:17 a.m. my phone buzzed in my bag. I didn't answer, but the vibration continued for 10 minutes. Relentless, heavy, like a warning. When I checked my phone the next morning, the voicemail was there. Unknown number. I listened. This time the voice wasn't just me, it was talking about my apartment. "This is your living room," it said. "The chair by the window, the cabinet near the fridge. I see everything, I know everything." I dropped the phone. I didn't touch it for hours. I felt watched, unsafe, trapped. The next few nights I tried everything. New SIM card, new phone, new number. Nothing worked. The calls found me. They always came at 3:17 a.m. I moved again. New apartment, new city, new life. I tried to block it out, tell myself it was over. I deleted old voicemails, reset my phone. For months I felt safe. Then one night at 3:17 a.m. my new phone vibrated. Unknown number. I didn't answer. I will never answer. The vibration stopped after a few seconds. No voicemail this time, just the reminder. Some calls are not meant to be returned. Some messages are not meant to be understood. Some numbers should never be dialed back. And some voices are never yours alone. It was just past midnight when my phone rang. I was home alone, sitting on the couch, scrolling through social media to distract myself from the silence. The display showed my own number. I froze. My phone couldn't be calling itself. Not unless something was seriously wrong. I hesitated, heart hammering. Then I swiped to answer. "Hello?" Nothing, just silence. Then a whisper, my own voice, saying my name, slow, clear, calm, but impossibly wrong. I dropped the phone. My stomach churned. I picked it back up, convinced it was a glitch, maybe a bug in the network. I called my provider. They said it was impossible. The call originated from my own phone. I told myself it was a mistake. Just a weird coincidence. That night I slept lightly, but I didn't sleep long. At 2:03 a.m. my phone rang again. Same number, mine. I ignored it. I thought if I answered I would hear me, and I didn't want to hear me. But the vibration persisted, long, relentless, like someone was standing over me, pressing my phone against my chest. Finally I answered. "Hello?" I whispered, my hands shaking. The voice that came back wasn't mine. It was close, familiar, almost a perfect imitation of me. "I'm inside," it said. I bolted upright. My apartment door was locked, windows closed. I checked the front door, back door, even everything was in place. "I can hear you," the voice continued. "I see you, you can't hide." I dropped the phone again, breathing rapidly. My mind tried to rationalize. Maybe it was a hacker, maybe some tech trick, maybe I was losing it. But deep down I knew this wasn't technology, this wasn't me, this wasn't normal. Over the next week the calls came every night, always at the same time, 2:03 a.m., sometimes silence, sometimes the faintest noises. My refrigerator, the hum of my computer, the floor creaking as if someone was pacing. Sometimes the voice would speak, always in my tone, always saying things only I would know. "Why are you sitting there? Don't move. I know what you're thinking." I started recording audio at night. I put my phone on speaker. a camera on a tripod, and kept a notebook to write every. I wanted evidence. Something to prove I wasn't imagining it, but nothing could explain it. One voicemail changed everything. I woke to see a new voicemail notification. From my number. I hesitated, then pressed play. This time it was me speaking, but I wasn't speaking. I hadn't made the recording. My own voice telling me to wake up, to leave, to run. I ran. I packed a bag and left my apartment, called a friend to spend the night. Slept in a well-lit room, the door locked, lights on, phone across the room. At 2:03 a.m. my phone rang. Same number, mine. I didn't answer. The vibration lasted 5 minutes, then stopped. The next morning I checked my phone. A voicemail. I listened. The voice was calm, deliberate, repeating my exact thoughts from the night before. Everything I had written in my notebook. Everything I had feared. I couldn't stay there. I moved to a new apartment across, but one night my phone rang. Unknown number. I ignored it. Then a second later my phone vibrated. New voicemail. Unknown number. I played it cautiously, my own voice again, whispering my full name. Describing my living room, my couch, my chair, the small pile of mail I had left by the door. It wasn't possible. I hadn't given anyone this information. No one could know. I deleted everything. Old voicemails, contact history, number logs, even my SIM card. It didn't matter. A few nights later I woke to the same vibration. My new phone, new number, unknown caller. The voicemail notification was there. I haven't answered it since. I don't plan to. I've learned some calls are not meant to be answered. Some voices are not meant to be heard. Some numbers are never safe, not even when they appear to be your own. And some echoes of yourself are far more terrifying than any